private conversations between our two governments. Saeed, go ahead.
Thank you, Matt. Switching topics to the Palestinian-Israeli issue. A couple of quick questions on the visa waiver. It seems that Gaza Americans are required to document and prove their residency abroad. To the best of your knowledge, is that required of other Americans?
What I will say about that is, so Israel just in the last few days announced new travel procedures for Gaza. I believe it was on Monday of this week. Those new procedures will allow U.S. citizens who are registered on the Palestinian Population Registry for Gaza to apply for visa-free admission into Israel. As we have said all along, we recognize that there is a different security situation in Gaza, and so there would be different procedures. And what I will say about that is that we are going to monitor the implementation of those procedures and make sure that all Americans are treated equally in making any determination about Israel's potential admission into the Visa Waiver Program.
One more question on this issue. There are reports that the determination of whether Israel enters the Visa Waiver Program sits with the Secretary, with Secretary Blinken, including, apparently a planned announcement on October 6th. And according to the statute, it's supposed to be the Secretary of the DHS. Can you clarify this? Or?
Well, I think we'll follow the statute. Obviously, no, you were right about what the statute says. The decision does not rest with the Secretary. The Secretary plays an important role, but as the procedure the statute lays out is that the Secretary makes a recommendation to the Secretary Blinken, Secretary of State, makes a recommendation to the Secretary of Homeland Security, who makes the final determination. I can tell you that neither of those steps have happened yet. The Secretary has not made a recommendation, and so obviously without that, the Secretary of Homeland Security has not made a final determination.
A couple more quick questions. The Palestinian Authority claims that...
Stay on the VWP
Sure.
Sure. If Saeed yields the floor.
Well, yeah, but it's just about this line that you just said, that the new Israeli guidelines allow American citizens who are on the Palestinian registry list in Gaza to apply for visa waiver entry, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, correct.
How is that different than getting a visa?
There are different steps. The same as
No,
there are, because the same as there's the ESTA program for. It's the same as entering America. I know.
It's not something not something that you apply for. It's something you register for. Okay. Now, what you just said was that okay, Palestinian Americans who are from or who have family in Gaza who want to go there can apply for it. That's the same thing as that is exactly the same thing as trying to get a visa.
The procedures, our understanding. So first of all, Israel just announced these several days ago. Our understanding and our expectation of the procedures is that they will not be the same as getting a visa, and that they will be.
So it will just be a formality.
It will be. They will be
like ESTA.
It will. I'm not going to compare a foreign program to our program. I was using that as an example to say
But in fact, that's what the law says. It has to be reciprocal, right? Which means that.
I just meant not the exact same technicalities. I meant not the exact same.
Their program has to be the same as the U.S. program as it relates
to
American citizens.
Though we do recognize that there's maybe slightly different procedures for going into Gaza because of the different security situation there.
If there's slightly different procedures, then that's not reciprocal.
But they still have to allow visa-free travel.
Look, there's just. And I think that even supporters of Israel will recognize that allowing complete reciprocity, in other words, for them to fulfill the criteria that is mandated under the law, the U.S. law, that they can't do it without sacrificing their own national security interests. And what you just said is that they're allowing Palestinian Americans to apply for visa waiver entry, but that is in what world is that not the same thing as that? Forcing them to apply for a visa. What world is that?
So I'm not able to get into the very technical details of what this will look like. Hold on. I know, but let me finish the answer. That Israel just announced a few days ago, and that we have only begun to monitor, and they have only begun to implement. But our understanding is that this new process for people traveling to Gaza or residents of Gaza will not be the burdensome the burdensome process that is involved in acquiring a visa. And again, as we have said a number of times, we will monitor it, and if it doesn't meet our requirements for entry into the Visa Waiver Program, Israel will not be admitted into the program.
And they have 16 days to prove that, right?
Correct.
Yes. And
Correct.
If they don't meet it in 16 days, they have to go back and qualify under the
Correct.
visa rejection rate, the visa overstay
Correct.
rate,
For a
and
new
everything else.
fiscal year. Right.
Can I just follow up on the claim of the Palestinian Authority that Israel is withholding about $800 million? I don't know if you're aware of it, and their tax revenues. Are you aware of that?
I've seen the reports. I don't have a response
Okay,
to it. I'm not able to.
next
I'm not
week
able to
there's-
verify them.
There's going to be a donors meeting, and I'm sure that the United States will be there in New York and so on this issue may come up. My second question also related to this. Will there be a meeting with any Palestinian official on the sideline of the UNGA, to the best of your knowledge?
I have not yet announced any meetings by either the secretary or other members of this department, and we'll make those announcements in the coming days.
Thanks.
Follow-up.
There you go.
There's a follow-up.
Follow-up.
Go ahead.
Visa Waiver Program. Okay, so this follow-up on Visa Waiver Program, given that
Gaza is controlled by the terrorist organization Hamas, what are the reasons for the Biden administration and the State Department insisting Israel give unfettered transitic access to Americans heading into or exiting the Gaza Strip in exchange for Israel being admitted to the Visa Waiver Program? And I have a follow-up.
Wait, what was the question that we are? Are you asking? Are we insisting that American citizens be able to?
The question is, well, I guess you basically find a response if the Biden administration is insisting Israel give unfettered transit access to Americans heading into or exiting the Gaza Strip in exchange for Israel being admitted to the Visa Waiver Program. And the second follow-up question is
Yeah, well, let's say, as I just said, we do expect that American citizens traveling into or out of Gaza be treated reciprocally. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
but this,
that-
the
that
second-
was it.
Administration had nothing to do with creating the visa waiver criteria. That was Congress.
Correct.
Okay, the second part of that is what responsibility for an attack or attacks will the State Department take if someone headed into or out of Gaza exploits this new access and attacks Israeli citizens and tourists?
I appreciate you coming and asking questions. I do think that's a bit of an absurd framing of the question. Again, we are talking about American citizens and their ability to be treated without discrimination, which is something that we expect. That said, we do work with Israel to ensure their security. We are 100% committed to the security of the Israeli people, and we work with them on a daily basis to ensure that.
There's a little confusing about America. How can American citizens be living in Gaza? What is the prevalence of that in the first place?
I don't have the numbers, but there are American citizens that live in Gaza and all over the world.
Just one more on
Yeah.
Israel. There was a bit of a kerfuffle yesterday or the day before in Israel over the transfer of some armored vehicles to the Palestinian Authority. I did get a very, well, I'll say, lame response.
That wasn't of me, was it? I don't.
No, it
You're
wasn't
not-
from you.
My
but-
response wasn't.
No,
at least in
you know,
this
it was
instance, I hope my response is not characterized as lame.
We don't comment on these transfers, but frankly, this would a transfer of armored vehicles to the Palestinian Authority, while it may be well intentioned and intended to help the PA police areas of the West Bank. There are no details about it. So, how many vehicles were there, and how much are they worth?
I do not have those details. I will give one answer. You'll reject as lame, and then a follow-up answer. One is that we don't comment on the details of these transfers, which I guess you've already preemptively rejected. And the second though we do.
I'm just saying that it's not.
The second thing I was going to say is. The second thing I say, which we do not, but we do not provide weapons to the Palestinian Authority.
No one said there were weapons.
Yes. Right.
armored
Sorry, we don't.
vehicles.
Yeah.
All right.
But hold on, Leon gave up the floor a minute ago. Do you want to? Yeah.